FERPA and you. What is FERPA? It stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It protects the confidentiality of student records. It is administered by the Department of Education, and it applies to all schools that receive federal funding. So what is required under FERPA? First of all, at minimum once per year, schools should provide families with information regarding the law, including a family's right to inspect the records, right to seek to amend the records, consent to disclose information in the records, and a right to file a complaint. Once per year, school districts may release directory information, which includes names, addresses, phone numbers, things of this nature. Parents can opt out to have this information published, and all other personal information should remain confidential. Thanks to a case in New York several years ago, non-custodial biological parents have essentially the same rights as custodial parents. Also, once a student reaches 18, they now have the same rights as their parents, and they can also determine who has the rights to their records. So what information can be shared and with whom? Teachers and counselors and administrators who have a legitimate educational interest in the child may review the records. Information can be shared with other schools that have a legitimate educational interest in the student. And health information can be shared in an emergency to appropriate healthcare officials. An interesting side note regarding peer grading and FERPA. In February 2002, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that peer grading does not violate FERPA. Federal and state officials can review student records without parental consent to enforce laws, to audit or evaluate federal education programs, and parents should be informed by the district that this could happen, and also health information contained in a student's educational records are exempt from HIPAA. So how does FERPA affect school personnel? If a teacher communicates personal information about a student that results in damage to the student's reputation, the teacher could face charges of libel or slander. Staff should avoid making statements based on opinion. They must have facts to back up their statements, and they should provide only reasonable information based on good faith. In many cases, it may not be appropriate to include minor disciplinary actions in a student's permanent records. Also, information should not be released over the telephone unless the receiver's identity can be verified. When talking about school counselors, there are 34 states in the United States that do not protect counselors in any way. FERPA records do not contain the personal files of counselors. If a student discloses to the counselor that information that is in the public interest, all confidentiality is lost. In the Supreme Court case Tarasoff versus the Regents of the University of California, a student confided to his psychologist that he was going to kill another student. The psychologist warned campus police, but not the victim, and the Supreme Court ruled that the psychologist had a duty to warn the potential victim. In summary, what should school personnel do? Number 1, keep student data secure. Number 2, be careful when using websites that request student personal information. And 3, maintain confidentiality in your communications, especially with those outside of the school. If we follow these guidelines laid out above, we will be successful under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act.
Created using Powtoon.